Welcome back. Episode 2 of the Mastermind Series here at OneLeg. Today we're going to be talking about top 3 reasons, the reasons that most people don't think about, most people don't account for when doing canvassing, door-to-door canvassing, using it as a lead source for lead generation, and why you shouldn't be doing it. We're going to break down those particular reasons, as well as towards the end of the episode, I'm going to give you 3 really creative ways that if you must insist on doing canvassing, you do these things and you will have a much more successful program, up to 300%. Stick around. We're going to cover it. Let's go. Okay, top 3 reasons why canvassing sucks. Number 1, you've got the low retention, insane turnover. Number 2, the little things add up, and they're not the leads. And also, you've got stranger danger. That's never a good thing when you hear that. So let's go right into it, okay? Severe problems with recruitment. Okay, so low retention, insane turnover. The national average for turnover in canvassing, door-to-door knocking, direct sales, outdoor sales is anywhere between 100 to 200%. What that really means is that you're replacing everyone you've hired. So at the end of the year, if you've hired 100 people, you have pretty much replaced every single one of those individuals, right? If it's 200% and you're at the upper end of that range, it's even worse, because that means that you would have replaced those same people that you hired in the beginning of the year twice by the end of the year. So again, lots of resources being spent on replacing people and addressing the issue of, low retention, high turnover, as opposed to lead generation and conversion. When you are able to go and, replace people, or at least if you're in that particular exercise, good luck finding people, who are skilled at performing door-to-door canvassing, let alone willing applicants. I mean, just think about it. What you're advertising for is a low skill, low paying position. The national average is anywhere between $10 to $12 an hour. And most people work part-time. That's about 20 hours a week. And we established that in episode 1 of this particular podcast. So again, it's an uphill battle. There's also absurd amounts of money being spent to run the ads. Just think about this. You're constantly trying to compete with not only the big companies that perform door-to-door canvassing, companies like Vivint, companies like ADT. These are big companies. If you're a $5 to even a $50 million home improvement, manufacturing, construction, remodeling company, or if you're a company that's, a mid-sized business, a small business, how are you going to compete with those larger entities that have better ads, more money, and they're offering higher pay, better benefits to their canvassers? Okay. And so you're constantly running these ads. You're making Indeed rich. Okay. Interviews, hiring, training, retraining, all of these have to be performed, especially when you've got low retention and insane turnover. You're constantly interviewing people. You're constantly having to hire them, perform paperwork. Your HR recruiting team is constantly documenting things, filling out information, and they're constantly recycling that particular process because they're always having to replace people. Now, if you're lucky enough to be able to find willing people to apply and you happen to hire them, think about this. You also have the costs of training them. Okay, that could take anywhere between 3 days at the quickest to about 3 weeks. And at that point, it's not even certain if you're going to keep them. Now, if you do intend to keep them, they're going to be retrained over a period of time. So again, there's additional costs to that. And all of these costs start to add up, right? And your activities, right, ranging from your talent acquisition or your recruitment team to your HR, you're now overworking those teams because they're constantly having to battle the cycle of this really insane turnover that this position inherently has. It requires a massive amount of people, right, to be able to keep this lead generating activity going. Crappy returns for massive effort. Don't do it. Okay. Here's a second reason not to do this. You've got too many of those added costs. The little things add up and they're not the leads. They're not the sales. You've got workers' comp and liability. Just think about this. You're sending people door to door, walking miles every day in neighborhoods. They could trip, they could fall, they could injure themselves, they could get bitten by dogs. Okay? Your workers' comp and your liability is going to shoot up the roof if you're one of those unlucky companies that happen to experience this. Okay? On top of that, you've got the upkeep of the vans, the cars, the safety, the gear, the wellness. Okay. How are you going to transport a team of canvassers unless you buy a van? Okay. That means maintenance. That means buying an actual vehicle or a van and then making sure that somebody's able to go and drive that every day to safely transport your canvassers. Okay, picking them up, okay, bringing them to a different location. There's gas, there's mileage. Then you've got safety gear, those, vests that they have to wear, the hats, okay. All of these things is exacerbated, or the purchasing of it is exacerbated because of the fact that you also have this high turnover, right? The first top reason why it's crappy to do canvassing. When you've got high turnover, you're going to have to buy more of these gears and you're going to have to go and constantly try to replace these things. Okay. Wellness. You're going to make sure that your canvassers are hydrated. Okay. There's medical kits in the vans. Okay. Or in the vehicles. Sometimes you do have to purchase food. Okay. Not all the time, but I would say it's a good idea if you want to keep the wellness of your canvassers and you want to keep them a tip-top shape. Now, just think about this. If you're in a neighborhood and you're canvassing with your group of half a dozen canvassers and it's lunchtime, where are they going to get their food? What if they didn't prepare food that day? You're going to have to drive them to a plaza or a restaurant or a place where they can purchase the food and then drive back to the same location that you guys are canvassing to continue that particular activity. It's a lot of effort, right? Now you've got uniforms, badges, and licenses. Uniforms, just think about it. It's not a good idea to have canvassers walking around neighborhoods in the civilian gear. Most companies will have uniforms from them, whether it's hats, their shirts, their pants, their shoes, okay, their vests, all of these things. And again, when you have high turnover, it's pretty disgusting if you're just going to go and recycle, the clothing and the gear that other people have used, and now they're no longer with you, and now you're giving it to the new people that you just hired. That's pretty disgusting. And as well as it's just inefficient. Okay, so now you're going to have to buy new clothing. You're going to have to worry about, people's sizes. The badges and the licenses. Every city has different codes and, different rules and policies. You're going to have to go and figure that out. And some cities, they require that you register your canvassers. Just think about that. You're going to have to re-register new people all the time because, again, you have that high turnover, right? You're experiencing that. Then if you are getting past all of those, there's this added cost of technology, cell phones, mobile devices. How are your canvassers going to, get the leads to their call centers to be able to schedule appointments or make those sales? Think about that. You've got the tablets or iPads. You're going to have to pay for software. Okay. Now, if you're one of those companies that don't do that and you basically just use pen and paper, okay, same thing. You're going to have to buy clipboards. Things get lost, okay, they doodle on it, you're going to constantly have to go and supply them with those particular material. And lastly, I think, and this is important, right, and a lot of companies don't even think about, is privacy and security of information and data, right? You could get sued, or people could go and write bad reviews when they start to realize that you're picking up their information and you're not securely transferring this where it's encrypted or where no one else can see it. canvassers go knock on doors, they pick up this personal information from homeowners or from, customers. And if they're writing it down, they're keeping that information with them. If they're putting it on a tablet, right, and they don't have a Wi-Fi signal, guess where that information stays? It stays within their tablet. It stays within their phone. Do you really think that people like it, that their information is sitting with a stranger, with someone that just not happened to knock on their door? Not a good thing. And again, those costs will add up. Okay. Here's the third and crappy reason, right? Crappy reason why you shouldn't be doing canvassing. It will destroy your brand. Okay. Literally, it will destroy your brand. Stranger danger. You're sending people in neighborhoods that they don't live there. No one knows them. Okay. They're not well versed with everything that has to do with your company. And for the most part, a lot of people don't think about this. When you have a high turnover and you don't have a good retention rate, you're really hiring new people all the time. So these new people, they're not necessarily bought in with your company. Okay. Neighborhoods hate canvassers. Let's face it. Okay. They don't hate the person. They hate the idea of strangers walking around their neighborhoods, peppering every home with door hangers and flyers and crap they're just going to put in their garbage, right? As soon as they get it, as soon as they see it on their doorstep. Door knocking also triggers homeowners to rant online or on apps like Nextdoor. They start talking about like, oh, these strangers are are knocking on people's doors. I don't know who they are. I don't know what they want. And I don't want to open my door. That's going to tarnish, if not destroy, your brand, especially if people start figuring out, well, these bunch of canvassers are, destroying, the peace of our neighborhood, and they happen to represent company XYZ. Okay. Here's another thing. Police presence and city officials typically kick canvassers out of neighborhoods because of the fact that, they think it's, hey, well, there's a bunch of strangers walking around neighborhoods, knocking on doors, picking up information, right? A lot of bad people, a lot of shady people do that. And so canvassers, despite them not necessarily doing anything illegal, are kind of clumped together with that group, specifically because of the activity that they're performing. Walking around neighborhoods, knocking on doors, picking up information when they've not been invited. Okay. And again, leading to bad, angry reviews. And guess what? When people see these bad reviews and they see, wow, you're bothering neighborhoods, not a good look, not a good way to start any type of relationship with prospects. And another thing that people, haven't thought about is door cameras. The proliferation of Ring and Nest cams and door cams, it gives the freedom for homeowners not to answer the door. No one's coming to the door now if they see that the person who's knocking on their door is a door-to-door salesperson with a tablet in their hand or a pen and paper or a kit trying to sell something. They're like, I don't want to go to the door. I'm just going to, I see who that person is. Okay. And that, again, that new piece of technology that's proliferated, over the last couple of years is just going to make your canvassing campaigns even more inefficient. Okay. So there's that saying, right? There's no such thing as bad publicity. There is bad publicity. This is one of them. So if you got to insist on doing this, okay, I would say that do these things instead. Instead of walking through neighborhoods, knocking on every single door, okay, do neighborhood events, okay? Instead of leaving flyers or door hangers and peppering the entire neighborhood with garbage that people just simply don't want and simply don't like, okay? There are new activities that you can perform using drone teams and then creating really seductive, really compelling direct mail pieces that are personalized to the user. And I'll elaborate on that in the next few slides. Here's another thing, social selling on the apps, okay? You don't need to take the information from door to door to generate your leads. You can do it now on apps like Nextdoor, Citizen, okay, the Ring Neighbors app, where you can use the app and the platform where people speak about their neighbors, about their neighborhoods, and use that to your advantage. And there's ways to do that efficiently and effectively. Okay. And in some cases, at a third of the cost than having to have this really inefficient canvassing campaign. So let's get into some of that. Okay. Neighborhood events, attraction versus persuasion. You're persuading people when you're knocking on doors, trying to provide a silly, played out script or pitch, right? So attraction, it requires this creativity. Don't bother people. Let them come to you. Organize events that you can do at a local park or at a street fair, okay? Or at a place where the city allows for companies or groups to gather, okay? This is a great way to have your company generate leads with the neighborhoods, okay, without physically walking miles upon miles and knocking on every single door, bothering people. Timing matters. It's important that you go and perform these events at the time of the day when people are coming home from work or on weekends when they're going to the park. When you do these things matter just as much as what you're doing. So keep that in mind. Never underestimate giving away free swag, okay? Free things, cool things. People will go to an event just to pick up free stuff, okay? People are shallow and irrational. And if you have really cool things, useful things, things that people want, and you're able to give this away, it's the same as paying somebody to knock on each door, getting the door slammed in their face or not getting any results. You might as well use that money to be able to go, and once you have people going to your event, you're able to give them an incentive to remember you by, to go and consider you, something nice and cool. Okay. Fishing pole versus casting a net. This is key. When you're knocking on doors, you're knocking one door at a time. You're relying on a person and their energy, their stamina, and their mood to be able to cover a lot of homes and walk a lot of miles. When you're organizing an event, you may not be doing this every day, but think about this. What you are establishing is a group of people coming to you. And so now you're going and casting a wide net. You can catch more leads through that one event than if you would daily, knocking on one door at a time. Okay. And here's the other thing. Don't discount where you engage people. When you knock on someone's door, it's their turf. Okay. It's their castle. They're automatically going to be defensive. The defenses are up. If you hold an event at the park or a street fair or a place where they congregate or the neighbors congregate, right? It's a common space. It's neutral space. Okay. They're feeling good because let's say it's a park and you organize some sort of outdoor event, there's music, they see grass, they can bring their dogs, they're feeling, they can bring their entire family, they're feeling good about the location. And when their moods are great, your chances when you actually start providing them reasons to consider your company, they go up. Okay. So how, when, and where matters when you're doing these neighborhood events. And these are some good tips to be able to apply instead of performing this door-to-door canvassing, which is highly inefficient. Okay. Here's another thing. Fly, don't walk. Creativity meets technology. This is key. A drone, for example, can go ahead and beat out an army of walkers. It's not even fair. If you think about it, okay, if you have one drone, you can go through an entire neighborhood in the same amount of time, taking photos, taking snapshots, using the information that you get from the drones, right, from the exterior of the home, especially if, let's say, you offer things that are for the exterior of the homes, okay, their lawns, windows, roofing, painting, swimming pools, etc. All of these particular things can be taken with drone shots, and you can go through an entire neighborhood, right, better than if you had somebody's walking door to door and basically what they're doing is trying to knock on door, pick up information. A drone can pick up all these data points as well as take photos. And then once you do have that, you can start working with your creative team to personalize these photos. Okay, so, I've worked with companies who perform roofing, and we've increased their lead generation by 300% simply by reallocating their canvassing budget to drone teams. And then once we have all those, the content, right, the material, the assets, what we do is we start creating these really lovely personalized mail pieces, and we go and provide this really nice call to action, and we drop this in their mailbox. An old-fashioned way of doing things with the new technology, very personalized, very personal to the homeowner. And that was so much more efficient and effective than having people knock on doors and figuring stuff out, right? Good old-fashioned mail plus the creativity, wow. I mean, better results altogether. The very last point here that I'm going to make is social selling through the apps like Neighbors, Citizen, Rings, Neighbor app. Now think about this, okay? People are talking, to each other. The neighbors are talking to each other on these apps. You can, on Nextdoor, for example, you can post ads as well, and you can post, okay? What we've established are we've hired marketing staff in those neighborhoods where we know we can have those neighbors speak to our advocates who happen to live in those places. And what we do is we engage them. We provide contests, we provide advertising to have them consider us. And once we do work in that neighborhood, or once we get customers, we nudge them in creative ways. And here's what happens. Those same people who happen to have purchased the products, they become your brand ambassadors. They become your advocates. So when somebody asks, hey, what's a good solar company? What's a good remodeling company? What's a good landscaping company? Who's a good real estate broker? Okay, or agent? The neighbors now will go and start saying things like, hey, I've used this before. Here's been my experience. They're the ones selling for you. They're the ones advocating for your company. And then you can go ahead and reward them, right, with swag and good things so that they continue that particular behavior. Again, let the neighborhood do the selling for you, as opposed to having strangers going into neighborhoods, bothering people, knocking on doors, generating leads that have super low buying intent, right, that go nowhere, okay? Use these smarter tips. And again, for any reason that you still think that canvassing is a good idea, okay, I've got a challenge for you. Connect with me. I will reallocate, my team and I will reallocate the same budget that you have or a portion of it, and we will go head to head and guarantee results because we can. So there's the website. Go ahead and click on that. Subscribe, follow, connect with me, ask me questions. You may disagree with some of this stuff or all of it. Love to hear from you, and I'll see you on the next episode.